Another day, another top 13 episodes list. Only this time it's for the John Nathan Turner era. So let's jump straight in with number 13, Black Orchid. I can see why some people don't like this serial, but to me it seemed like a callback to the good old days where there didn't always have to be a big nasty alien trying to dominate the planet. Instead, it focused on a murder mystery where the Fifth Doctor is accused of the heinous crime. It's a simple story, but one that is a welcome distraction from the normal kind of Doctor Who episode, and I wish they would attempt it at least once in New Who. Number 12. Battlefield. Was this serial as good as it could have been? No. But two words. The Brigadier. Yes, that's my shallow attempt to justify why I like this story as much as I do, and I'm sticking to it. Despite the script not being the strongest, the actors involved all played their parts wonderfully. It's just a shame the series ended when it did, as I believe Angela Bruce would have made a worthy successor to Lethbridge Stewart in any future stories. Number 11. Logopolis. A landmark episode for many different reasons. This was the last live-action appearance of the Fourth Doctor. It introduces us to Tegan, brought back Nyssa, and it was the Master's first real appearance since regaining a brand new body. This serial had a lot of elements that would carry over into Peter Davison's run, all of which were positive. But let's talk about the regeneration. I know if someone was to fall from a great height it would be horrific, but I can't help but feel the reason for the Fourth Doctor's regeneration seems a bit tame. Especially when you compare it to the reasons why the Third and Fifth Doctors regenerated. Number 10. Silver Nemesis. A powerful artifact is being hunted by several different groups, all of which want to harness its mystical power to make themselves the dominant force. It's a pretty standard story. But to me there's one particular element that helps elevate this serial. The performance of Fiona Walker. Now this next sentence is going to make me sound a little strange, but I felt that her performance was so good I didn't actually see an actor playing a role. I saw a woman from 1638 who had somehow managed to time travel. I also like the tie-ins with Earth's history, as every 25 years the Nemesis enters the Earth's orbit and something bad happens. Now there is some genuine criticism of this serial, claiming it to be the exact same story as Remembrance of the Daleks, just with Cybermen. And I can see where people are coming from, which is why it only takes the 10th place on this list. Number 9. The Mark of the Rani. A rarity during the Sixth Doctor's run, as the majority of this story takes place on Earth. And whilst the plot isn't the strongest, I'm sure we can all agree the introduction of the Rani makes up for that, as she's a brilliant addition to the Whoniverse. Sure, an argument could be made that she's just a female master, but in my eyes she isn't. She's far more devious and it feels like she actually hates the Doctor. Whereas the Master just feels like he's toying with the Doctor and there's never any real threat. Number 8. The Two Doctors. This is a strange serial when you really think about it, as it was the first multi-Doctor story that wasn't an anniversary special. The chemistry between the Second Doctor, the Sixth Doctor, Jamie and Perry was amazing, and the Androgams are a welcome addition to the Whoniverse. Although I'm not really sure why the Sontarans were added, as I thought the Androgams were more than capable of sustaining the serial as the main villains. A slight problem I have with the story was if the Second Doctor was changed into an Androgam and the Sixth Doctor's timeline was about to be rewritten, then why didn't the Third, Fourth and Fifth Doctors show up too? It doesn't make sense, still that's what you get when you try to use logic. Number 7. The Ultimate Foe. This is the culmination of a series-long storyline, and what a reveal. Now I wasn't watching Doctor Who when it first aired, so I'm just curious. Was anyone surprised when the Valiard was revealed to be an amalgamation of the Doctor's dark side? I'm only asking because I believe it would be. And unlike other TV shows today, the secrets were actually kept back then, rather than revealing them in a series trailer. Number 6. Mordrin Undead. The Brigadier returns, only something is slightly off about him, as he's forgotten about all his previous adventures with the Doctor. It's an intriguing storyline which is elevated by the inclusion of a much-loved character. Also, this serial introduced us to Turlo, a person who struggles with the dilemma of doing something he really doesn't want to do in order to get something he really wants. Naturally, he rejects being a bad person and joins the Fifth Doctor as one of his companions. And whilst I absolutely love the Brigadier, I can't help but feel this serial might have been a little better if the original plans had panned out, as the original teacher was meant to be none other than Ian Chesterton. But sadly the change couldn't be helped as William Russell was unavailable. Number 5. Earthshock. Okay, so Adric is pretty much universally hated, although I'd argue there are a couple of other companions that are slightly more annoying. So why is the death of Adric so strong? Well, because he actually stays dead, which is quite rare in the Whoniverse. If any other Doctor Who producer was in charge, they would have killed Adric only to bring him back to life in the very next serial. I also like it when in a science fiction show they use real history to further their own mythology, such as explaining the extinction of the dinosaurs by having the freighter crash into Earth 65 million years ago. Number 4. Survival. The final story of not only the Nathan Turner era, but also what is now known as the Classic era. If this was your first experience of Classic Who, and then you were told the show was cancelled shortly afterwards, you may ask why. And it would be a valid question, as it seemed like the stars were aligned and everything slotted into place perfectly. Even the special effects to create the cheetah people were surprisingly good. And even though it was the end of Doctor Who, it certainly went out on a high note. Number 3. The Caves of Androzani. This is quite possibly the best final episode of any Doctor, as this serial shows us just how brave the Doctor can be as he sacrifices one of his lives so another being can carry on living. A trait that has only been used twice since then, which is kind of shocking considering how many times he's regenerated. Everything seems to come together for this serial. The writing, the direction, the acting, even the locations look good. And we also get an explanation to why the Fifth Doctor always wore a stick of celery. Number 2. Remembrance of the Daleks. After a dodgy first season, a few changes were made which resulted in this serial also setting the tone for the rest of the Classic Who era. The main change being returning the Doctor as a mystical figure. And considering we knew a fair bit about the Doctor's history at this point, they somehow made the change work. And number 1, The Five Doctors. This was the perfect anniversary special. It gave the previous Doctors a significant role without taking the focus off the current Doctor. Not only that, it gave us a chance to see a selection of the Doctor's companions interact with other incarnations of the Doctor. And we also learn a little bit more about the history of Gallifrey and how corrupt the Time Lords could actually be. The only negative thing about this story is the absence of Tom Baker, but that couldn't be helped. So there it is, my top 13 episodes from the John Nathan Turner era. Do you agree with my choices? If not, why not comment below and tell me about your favourite episodes?